What is up? And welcome to the first episode of the Embrace It podcast. I am like super excited to get this rocking and rolling. This is my first podcast ever. And this is obviously the first episode of the Embrace It podcast. And so I am excited and I feel honored that you took some time out of your day to listen to me, watch me, whatever you're doing. But I know your time is valuable. So I'm super excited for you to be here. Um, and we're going to figure this out together. We're going to figure this out together. I was thinking kind of this last week, I was thinking about how, oftentimes and I'm speaking from experience, I should say me, but I think a lot of us, we don't start things because it's like, well, we're not going to be good, right? And I think that fear can keep people stuck. It's kept me stuck in certain ways of like, well, you're not going to be good, so you shouldn't do it. And I have to remind myself, like, well, Taylor, you didn't get good in the gym until you got the reps in, right? You didn't get good with discipline until you started practicing it, right? And it's the same thing that goes with this podcast. It's like, you're not going to jump on episode one and just be like, the next Mel Robbins, right? But I think the cool part is for any of us, for all of us, starting something that's new is it's like, hey, we start this, right? Like we push through the fear because we know our why, right? We know the impact we want to create, and we use that to kind of drive through the fear, so to speak, right? And then we can watch our podcast episode in 6 months or in a year and be like, oh my gosh, look how much we've improved, right? And for me, that's one of the greatest journeys of life, I guess, is doing things that we're not that good at, but then watching ourselves get better and better. And I think that that's how we grow as humans is doing things that feel tough. And but we eventually get good at them. So I'm excited that you're here for the first episode. Um, so I wanted to today kind of just introduce myself a little bit, tell you a little bit about kind of what you can expect from this podcast, and yeah, a little bit about kind of what I do in general. So yeah, let's dive in here. So a couple weeks ago I had a mentor of mine, and she asked me to be on her podcast. And I was like, of course. And I listen to her podcast on a regular basis. And I know one of the first questions she asks people are, who are you? And I always thought that is an interesting question. I think many of us, myself included, somebody asks you that and you can kind of just answer without any thought, right? Like you can just answer and say, I am a health and fitness coach, right? I am a whatever. Um, and when I started to think about how I'm going to answer this, I started to think about, okay, what is your identity, right? Sure, you have a job, but is that your identity or are you so much more than that, right? And so I just kind of started to kind of sort through and kind of create this hierarchy, if you will, of my identity and how I prioritize my identity, if you will. And so yeah, that's kind of how I wanted to introduce myself by asking me, who are you, Taylor? And so I am Taylor, and I am first and foremost, I am a child of God. Um, I am a sibling. I have two sisters and a brother. I am an aunt. I love being an aunt probably more than anything in this world. I have no children, never been married, but I am an aunt and I just love being an aunt so much. I am a friend. I have some awesome friends in my life that I am just so forever grateful for. I am an introvert. I am sitting here at my kitchen island, just chilling, hanging out. I love spending time with my people, but I love being by myself. I just enjoy my own company. And if you were to ask my siblings, they would be like, yeah, Taylor is an introvert. And I am a bodybuilder. I have been in the bodybuilding world for a few years. I love the lifestyle that bodybuilding provides for me. So that's a big passion of mine. And I am a health and fitness coach and a business owner, which is Embrace Fit. So yeah, that's a little bit about me, kind of in a nutshell. I want to share more of kind of my story and who am I and things like that as the podcast episodes kind of unfold. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of kind of who I am there with that explanation. I also wrote some notes here. I am a bit of a rambler. So I made some notes here to hopefully keep me on track. That's probably why I wanted to do long form content is because I like to talk. And so made some notes here that I might be referring to. Um, so let's chat. Let's chat about Embrace Fit. Let's chat about kind of my business first, because then that kind of falls into the podcast, of course. And so I thought we would start with kind of the origin story of Embrace Fit, which is my business. And then Embrace It, obviously, is the podcast. And so um, a little bit about me and my journey is I have lost a significant amount of weight, and I spun my wheels with weight loss for near a decade before I kind of finally started to get it, if you will. And when I was thinking about kind of the name for my business and this podcast, I was just laying in bed one night and it just came to me. And I was like, Embrace Fit. And the reason I chose that is because as cliche or corny or whatever as this sounds, it's so true. It wasn't until I started to embrace the kind of health and fitness lifestyle or journey. Um, it wasn't until then that I was able to see results. Like I said, I spun my wheels for years. I tried any fad diet there ever was. I mean, I keto, living on the cardio machine, going to get diet pills, you name it, I did it. I did everything except for the right thing for years. And I sure maybe saw some success. It was never sustainable. And oftentimes I didn't see success. I would be a weekend and I'd be like, screw this, I'm not doing it. And so I finally, obviously started to kind of adopt the lifestyle, and it finally stuck, right? I was finally able to see the weight loss and transform my lifestyle, if you will. But that wasn't until I embraced the process and embraced the lifestyle slowly but surely. But once I was finally able to do that, and look at this as kind of a long-term thing instead of a 30-day quick fix. When I was finally able to embrace it is when I was finally able to see results and sustain those, long term. So that's kind of where the name of Embrace Fit came from, and then the Embrace It podcast. I am a firm believer that if we can like truly embrace our health and fitness, embrace our mindset, that we can then, embrace our life kind of one step at a time, and regardless if that's, growth, if that's personal development, if that's just betterment, if that's, growth in a health and fitness journey, kind of whatever that is, I think if we can kind of embrace the journey and embrace the process and embrace kind of the suck, right? And the highs and lows and stick with it, that we can see our results come to life, and then we can sustain those long term. And so that's kind of where my heart and kind of my thought came from in regards to, Embrace Fit, online health and fitness coaching business, and then the Embrace It, podcast, if you will. Um, so a little bit about me in regards to kind of like my education or employment history, if you will, is I graduated high school and then I went on to get my undergraduate degree from Ohio University in Athens, Ohio. Um, it was the number one party school when I went there. We will get into that later on in the podcast episodes, but yeah, we will leave that there for now. But I graduated with a degree in social work and psychology for my undergrad, and then I went on to get my first kind of big girl job, if you will. And I was doing assessments, diagnostic assessments in the mental health world for the severely mentally ill population, and did that for several years. And then I decided to go get my graduate degree. I went to the University of Dayton in Dayton, Ohio, and I graduated with my degree in mental health clinical counseling. After that, I continued to do assessments. I just did them in a different realm. I started to work through a common pleas court and did court assessments there for people who were involved in the legal system, but maybe needed some substance abuse or mental health um, help. And so I loved that. I did that for a total of about 10 years. And then about 2.5 years ago, I kind of took the plunge, not kind of, I did, and put my notice in at my job and decided to go kind of all in full time with Embrace Fit online health and coaching business. And so that is what I do now for my full-time, work, if you will. I help women through nutrition and training and accountability, help them, reach their physique and weight loss goals, and also improve their overall quality of life. And so yeah, so kind of with both of those, if you will, my own journey with weight loss and my just true passion for health and fitness, along with my educational history and background working in mental health field, I really wanted to kind of combine the two. And that's kind of where my heart is with this podcast is sure, I want this podcast to be things where you can learn about training and nutrition and macros and a lifestyle that serves you, right? But I also want this to be a podcast to where we are discussing some things that sometimes I feel like are kind of left out. And in my opinion, they're some of the most important things if we want to see results, success, and sustain those long term, which is really addressing that kind of mental health, mindset, kind of identity piece. And if we can combine those two, that's how I think that we see results. It's been my experience in my weight loss journey, and it's working with several clients. It's been their experience as well as when we can tackle both. Yes, learn all the things, nutrition, training, all of those things. But man, we have to address this mindset and mental health piece. And if we don't, it's we spin our wheels, and I've been there myself. And so yeah, so this podcast is I really want to be able to just combine the two, and I want this to be a space where you feel safe and where we can connect and feel less alone. I think that oftentimes our problems, right? Can make us feel so isolated and alone, right? Even if we know other people who are going through the same things, like sometimes our problems, they feel so much bigger than other people, or I'm so far gone more than that person. And yeah, so I just want this to be a space where we can feel less alone and we can connect. And I want to provide value, to you and your journey and just, your life as a whole. And share some of my, my mistakes and hopefully you can learn from those or so yeah, that's kind of where my heart is in this. And um, I will be doing solo episodes where you're just getting me in my kitchen. Hopefully I eventually do some episodes in my office. My aunt's gonna help me with kind of setting up that room. Because it's kind of random right now. But eventually maybe we'll be in there for podcast episode. But for now, I'm going to be at my island in my kitchen. Might have some coffee sometime. Um, so yeah, so that's the podcast. It just lost my train of thought when I was thinking about coffee. Um, but some topics that I kind of have for the podcast and just kind of some themes that I was thinking about is kind of like our identity, right? And self-sabotage and the all or nothing mindset, self-limiting beliefs. Yeah, so those are some topics that I've thought of. And oh yeah, I was talking about the solo episodes. It came back to me after I forgot about coffee. But I also am going to have some guests on here. So I've already reached out to some coaching friends of mine that are going to be on the podcast, and some friends of mine, and just people who have been on a health and fitness journey themselves, and could offer a different perspective. And yeah, hopefully you can learn and gain some knowledge from them too. So we'll have a little bit of combination from both of just me and the solo episodes, and then other people that are in the field or just in my life in general. So I'm super excited for those as well. And so I also wanted to just touch on briefly about kind of why I became a coach. And, like I mentioned, I had spun my wheels for a decade. And it wasn't until I hired my first coach, that I was like, oh, this is what I needed. And I went through a few coaches, if you will, to kind of until I found one that I really fit well with, if you will. And we've been together for a couple years now. I think going on maybe three or four. Um, and when I got the coach and was able to have that accountability, and a plan that was completely tailored to me, my lifestyle, my needs, where I was starting from, where I wanted to go, it was like a light bulb went off. It was like, oh my goodness, why didn't I check my ego at the door and ask for some help sooner, right? Why? I, and that's life sometime, right? Is we're often like, man, I wish I would have done that sooner. And sure, our experiences help us to become the person that we are currently. So I don't take anything. I wouldn't want to take any of that away. But yeah, when I was, got the first coach, and then when I finally got one that I felt like, okay, this is a really good fit, it was like things just skyrocketed. It was like I wasn't trying to Google things or figure things out on my own. It was like I had someone who was guiding the ship for me. And not only was he guiding the ship for me and still guides the ship for me, he was helping to educate me, right? And empower me and hold me accountable, right? Every step of the way. I mean, he met me where I was at, and we built on top of that. Um, and that truly is what has helped me, sure, transform my physique, right? My physique looks wildly different than it did 5, 7 years ago. However, hiring a coach, and sure, there was other work that I had to do on my own outside of just hiring the coach, but that was the catalyst that it was like, okay, we can not only transform our physical being, but we can also start to transform our mindset, right? And our lifestyle. And little by little, didn't happen overnight. It's not like I just woke up one day and went from eating chicken fingers, pizza, and beer to all of a sudden now eating tons of whole foods and being completely sober like that. That wasn't it. It took me years, but over those years, I continued to get better and better and better, right? Until now I'm here, right? And that was wildly due to, hiring a coach and checking my ego at the door and being like, Taylor, look at the data, look at the history of the last 10 years. Like, girlfriend, you can't do it by yourself. Like, and that's okay, right? Like, aren't we here as humans to be able to connect and help one another? And so yeah, that's when things kind of took off for me, is when I hired a coach, and yeah, just really started to work alongside, him, and start to work on the training piece and the nutrition and the lifestyle and the mindset. And just little by little, month after month, year after year, it just started to build upon each other until, now I would say I'm at a place where I feel so good about my lifestyle, that if you would have asked Taylor 10 years ago, it even makes me emotional even thinking about, um, I would have been like, there's no way, there's no way that she can get there essentially. And so, um, that's where, my heart came with wanting to be a coach is I want to help other women who maybe spun their wheels for a year, 5 years, a decade more, and just feel like maybe I just can't, right? I just can't. Or maybe I'm not deserving of it, or whatever, whatever false narrative, um, they're telling themselves. I want to be able to help them, right? And so, yeah, that's why I became a coach, is because I want to, help women, sure, learn the nutrition and the macros and the sleep and the training and the stress management, learn and implement all of those into their daily life, but also start to work on the mindset piece. And have someone who can meet them where they're at and really build upon that, right? Um, so yeah, that's kind of where my heart is in all of this. And it's been being a coach the last 2.5 years. It has been such a it's been such a grateful journey that I have been able to um, be a part of women's journeys, right? And watch them evolve and push past self-limiting beliefs and work through self-sabotage and feel confident because they're showing up for themselves. I mean, it has yeah, um it's been better than I can even put in words. And so um yeah, so um I think that's kind of it. I just, yeah, wanted to jump on here and tell you a little bit about me and a little bit about what you can expect in this podcast, and a little bit about why I became a coach. And yeah, so I think that's it. I hope this first episode like wasn't too bad. Thanks for listening to a few rambles there. But I'm excited. My heart is in this, and that's why I know that it is right, because yeah, my heart just wants to be able to share and help, and yeah, just create a safe space. I think of that so often, is how much safe spaces have helped me in my life. And I just want to be able to create a safe space and help you not only get tangible things on how you can change your physical being, but how you can also start to think about some mindset things and take some tangible things, to where you can start to work on your mental health and mindset if that's something that you desire. I always say that if this journey was just for the physical transformation, it wouldn't be worth it. And I know people are probably like, Taylor, you've lost 100 pounds, like you're just saying that. I mean that wholeheartedly. Is if it was just the physical transformation, it wouldn't be worth it. The way that health and fitness and working on the mindset piece has transformed my quality of life, it's unmatched. The physical transformation is just a bonus. But all the ways that being on a health and fitness journey and taking care of yourself with nutrient dense food and movement and sleep and rest, the way that those things can transform your quality of life is top tier. And I always say the physical transformation is just the bonus. Don't worry, you'll get both. You'll get the improvement of your quality of life, and you'll get the physical transformation. But I promise you, if you get on this journey and you stick out this journey, even through the hard, the way that nutrient dense food, movement, sleep, recovery can transform the quality of your life, it is something that I never knew was possible. And I think it's so cool, not to get on a rant here, but I think it's so cool that things at our fingertips, such as taking a walk or drinking water or eating some fruits and veggies, the way that those can transform the way that we feel on a daily basis, I just think is so cool. And so yeah, I'm not gonna ramble anymore, because I could go on and on about that for a while. Um, but yeah, I'm not really putting a cadence on how often I'm doing these episodes. I'm just gonna kind of leave it as is, as I feel like doing them for right now. Because I want the episodes to come out of being like heart-led and passion instead of like, oh, I have to do a podcast episode this week. And so I'm not gonna put a cadence on them for now. I'm just gonna kind of do them as I feel led to do them because I think that you guys will get more value if I do it that way for now. If you have any podcast topics that you would like me to touch on, or any guests that you would like me to, consider having, or type of guests, other coaches or people in the health and fitness, industry in other regards, or whatever that is, I'm open to all the ideas and, um, opinions there. Um, so yeah, and if you are watching on Spotify, you can follow the Embrace It podcast, and so that way you can get updated when I drop a new episode. If you're watching or listening on YouTube, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you'll get notified when I drop a new episode there. And then also on my Instagram and Facebook, each time I drop a new episode, I will post it there, so you will get notified there as well. So I am super excited. And I guess the message today, because I feel like I always have something kind of cliche or like corny to say. But I swear the most like cliche things are like always the most true. And so I guess the message for today is just like me starting this podcast. Um, if you're afraid to start something just because you won't be good at it at first, my encouragement to you is just take the plunge because that is the only way we're going to get good, right? And I know that sounds like duh, Taylor, but like I said, I think fear keeps us stuck of like, well, what if I'm not good? And the thing is like you're not supposed to be good the first time, right? But that is the growth, I think, in the empowerment of us humans is taking the leap of faith, if you will, and starting even when you're not that good, and just doing it anyways. And then just knowing the more reps you get in, just like a health and fitness journey, the easier it becomes, the more normal it becomes, the better you become, right? And so, yeah, let's just like take the plunge, do things that we're fearful of, and just know that we will get better if we push through that fear, right? So, okay, I will see you in episode number 2. And again, I am just like so honored that you took the time out of your day to listen to me ramble. Okay, talk soon.